Now what I want to do is I want to put a square color background behind this text. So maybe something that's blue, I don't know, maybe something that's a little bit gray. I'm not sure. So in order to do that, I'm going to go to my Make a Square tool, the Square Marquee tool, and say that this is the size of the box. Or actually, I think I would do it more like this right here. And that looks pretty good. Here we go. Then I would go to the Fill tool. Now, this is the gradient tool, but if we click and hold, we get the paint bucket. Now with all of these, you'll see that there's little arrows on all of them. So for instance, in the Make a Square tool, if I click and hold, there's also a Make a Circle tool. Or in the, which other one? In the Text tool, there's also things like doing vertical text. There's all sorts of other things right there. For our sake, where it has a gradient tool, there is also a paint bucket tool. And I want to fill it with the color, let's say a light blue. So you'll notice I'm just going outside of the canvas, saying OK. And I just want to fill this in right here. I'm going to click, and it says blah, blah, blah. It doesn't work. So I'm going to press Cancel. Now remember, if ever you're having a problem, you're probably on the wrong layer. So I'm going to, here, let's actually click that again. What it's telling me, this type layer must be rasterized before proceeding. Its text will no longer be editable. Rasterize the type. What does that mean? It means I am on a text layer, or a type layer, so I can't add a fill because a type layer, this sort of layer, isn't there for images. It's only there for type. So I'm on the wrong layer. So I need to figure out how to do it on the right layer. So I'm going to cancel. Could not use the paint bucket because the pixels in a type layer cannot be edited without first rasterizing Just as we rasterized the smart object layer, you can also rasterize the text layer. We're going to have a lot of fun with that layer later. I can't talk. So let's select a different layer. I'm going to go to layer 1, hit OK, and that looks good. So I am going to deselect by going to Select, Deselect, and I actually want to stretch that out a little bit. So I'm going to, click on it. I'm going to hit Control-T, stretch it out, and what's happening? What's happening is I accidentally added this fill on the same layer that the sand dune is on, which is a problem. Because if I want to change this fill at all, I can't because it's connected. It's the same, it's considered the same object as the sand dune. So let's step back in our history. Here we go, to the point where we were right here. And instead of selecting our sand dune layer, let's hit our background layer. And let's go to our fill tool right here. There we go. And I'm going to go to Select, Deselect, and try this again. I'm going to hit Control-T. I'm going to hit Control-T, and you'll notice nothing is happening. And the reason nothing is happening is because the background layer is locked in place. You'll notice how there's a little lock sign right here? That's telling us that if you do anything on the background layer, don't expect to be able to transform it. This is just here to set up a background color. So that's no good either. So what I want to actually do is I want to create a new layer that is completely blank that I'm able to put this fill on. So I'm going to create a new layer, and I am going to press Fill, and we run into a problem again. So this time, let's go to Select, Deselect. This time, I'm going to hit Control-T, and yes, it's working. That's actually kind of cool right there. It's working, but what it did is instead of filling it up completely, it looked at all of the layers and just tried to fill in the colors that weren't fitting into that. And that's because if we looked at the Fill tool, there's a little checkbox up here that asks us, do we want to look at only the current layer or do we want to look at all layers? And we want to look at all layers. So we want to look at none of the layers, just the layer that we're on. So I'm going to create a new layer, and I create a new layer by using the same icon that we use to duplicate layers with, just this Create a New Layer icon at the bottom of the Layers palette. Created a new empty layer, use the Fill tool, and now we have the problem of we can't see the text. So in order to solve that, I'm going to go to the layer stacking order, and now we can see the text. We have the problem, though, that it's overlapping here a bit, so I'm going to go to the layer stacking order and move it down a bit. I want to increase its size, so I'll hit Control-T, and now we can increase its size or decrease its size. And you'll notice I'm not hitting Shift because I do actually want to control all of these different things. I could even rotate it about a little bit. I don't want to do that, though, so I'm going to hit Control-Z, and I am going to hit Enter. Now, let me actually name these layers right here. In order to do that, I'm just going to double click and call this box and call this Dune. Now make sure to double click on the word itself. If you double click anywhere else, you get this window, which is no good. So just double click on the word itself, and then you can change it. So I want to move this and the box together. So in order to do that, we're going to control click both of them, link them together, and now we're able to move these together. I want to left align this text now, so I'm going to go to left align. You'll notice it's not showing up here in the options bar. So if I select the text tool, it will then show up. All right, so let me just move this down, and I'm having a problem now because they're linked together. So in order to unlink them, I'm going to control click the link again, and now undo, move outside of it, and now I can unlink it right there. Control click, link it together one more time.